Oh, I feel pretty blessed that I have had front row seats to that for a while, for a long time. But it never, ever, ever stops being so deeply medicine every time. So thank you.
So well.
All right. So we are here and we're teaching something that is the culmination of a lot of years walking together. And I want to start by bringing it back to, I guess, the ground and speaking to the journey of how we came to be able to write this together and how this evolved. Because what we'll be teaching in this class is the 7 layers to embodied facilitation, the 7 elemental layers. And that this work it is something that evolved through us and is unique in the way that we've framed it and the way that we will teach it. And it's come about from 12 plus years walking beside each other and teaching beside each other, and the requests of those that we have supported through ritual rites, ceremony, events, trainings, teachings, and workshops to teach them and to show them. But I want to honor that the principles that these elemental layers are founded upon, they're universal. You know, they're in any ancient indigenous culture that you look at. They're in all of the old philosophies, the records, the tablets. There's nuance to it. And there's Australian slang and there's our experience. But these elemental layers are based on universal principles and teachings. How we really got here as humans standing next to each other. Do you want to start off by talking about your path into this arena?
Absolutely. It's nice to know where we come from, right?
Yeah.
In order to come and join us at the table. Really, as you know, and as I've shared a few times with people, that my path was just one of an ordinary man, right? I found it helpful to work with my hands. School really wasn't my jam. I love to fix things. So my walk in life took me into the fields of mechanics and working with cars and being hands-on in my approach. I'd obviously had previous experiences as a child of, deep, intuitive connection with that spiritual domain, with spirit, with the unseen, that I was unsure of what to do with and how to nurture that, how to explore that. So I kind of tucked that away for a little while, and I felt like,
like many,
in some, some chapter of my life that would come forth and be further explored, but I wasn't sure when. So I was like, I'll pursue what I felt called to, which is mechanics. And as I did that, I thoroughly enjoyed that. I thoroughly enjoyed figuring out systems of how things work and how things complement and how to fine-tune the vehicle. So my path eventually took me from fine-tuning vehicles on a mechanical level to firstly meditation, fine-tuning my own vehicle, exploration of this vehicle, understanding how this communication system worked between body, mind, emotions, and spirit. Like, I understood my bodies through exploration and through pulling them apart as I would pull an engine apart to figure out how it worked and put it back together, and hopefully didn't have any leftover pieces left, any leftover bolts. Same thing. And I stepped into that arena, and again, there was something that was already calling me there. There was a point of a familiar thread that I had known but not yet explored. And as I started to venture into that, just for myself, firstly, as I feel like everyone's journey really starts with themselves before ever moving into that new domain of sharing and in being of service to other. I explored myself. I started to unpack a busy mind and land in and forgive myself and heal myself and realize what was there. And it was such a draw card, and there was such a strong calling to that. I just needed courage, right? And I'm sure, as our conversation goes on, this will be one of those principal factors of having enough courage to lean into that calling, to follow that thread. And I had enough courage and strength to do so, even without the support of friendship circles around me, understanding really what I was doing. I did it solo. I really followed that by myself and just had courage enough to explore what I felt called to explore and to study and to put time and energy and effort into. And it was everything. That was the making, the making of the man that stands before everyone today. I just needed to be courageous enough to go there and to look for myself and to give it the time and the energy and the effort and the devotion and dedication that it required, and also the sacrifice of handing over things that I once clung so tightly to. My identity as a man, as a mechanic, as a, this was who I was. I had to let that self-imposed sense of self fall away before my eyes, which is terrifying, right? I think people would lie if they were to say otherwise, but it's tremendously terrifying, that death. So to be shorter with this, there was that death, and there was a reforming, a retransformation, like a transformation, metamorphosis, let us say. And the path kept going, right? And going and going and going. And I wasn't here for the quick get it and let me study this and become this and then I can serve this. I just followed every thread. I followed every new door, new opportunity to go deeper. I went there and I put in the time and I put in the years and I put in the effort and I surrendered and surrendered and surrendered and surrendered and surrendered and knew and started to really truly know and explore humility and humble my ego, humble myself, and really bring myself to my own knees, to the great earth and to the spirits that dwell here and beyond, and to the great mystery, and just hand my will over and listen to the intelligence that was guiding me. And that was my reshaping, it brought forth something, it birthed something entirely new. I finally became the man I knew I truly was inside, but I was unable to express it. I was unable to bring it into the world and be in accordance and in alignment with those greater values and qualities that were there, but just hadn't been fanned. The flame hadn't yet come into a all-consuming fire. It was still just a little amber. So I tended to that, and I started to then, when I felt confident and strong within that foundation, to just share what was of benefit and of assistance to me. And that was at first, and still is to this day, meditation. I was like, I struggle with my own mind and with understanding that in my place, and the noise that was, encoded from the environment around me and those around me. I needed to unlearn and unpack and become silent so we could listen from a place of connected integrity, where I was not listening to something outside of myself. I was listening to something that was inside. And that has never steered me in the wrong direction. And still to this day, and this is really, it's what's brought us here. Everything in between that story of meeting phenomenal elders and teachers and having experiences and initiations and putting myself, in the right place to be challenged and to be shaped and carved by life, and not pushing away from it, but leaning in with greater curiosity into what made me uncomfortable until I found comfort in the face of discomfort. So I feel like there's so many facets and expressions of that journey. But in a nutshell, that was it. It was a pushing away of the calling because I wasn't sure what to do with that, and exploring and expressing of myself fully in what I felt, a death of that, and a reforming of something new, and exploration with greater depth that brought my heart contentment, beyond imagination. So of course, I like to share that and pay that blessing forward for others too. Yeah.
And I just want to say a couple of things that you haven't mentioned because it's not in your nature too often. But I've been able to witness a lot of the last third of your life, and can wholeheartedly say I've never been able to witness anyone with as much discipline and rigor in attending to something that calls them in the way that you have. Like, I have fire, but there's ways that I still think that I can bend and break the rules and get away with it. Whereas, it's not like you follow anyone's rules, but when there is something that is asked of you to move to the next stage, you do it with a level of discipline and unwavering quality of integrity that I've never seen before. And so I want to speak to the rigor that is in that, and that has never wavered. It has never, ever wavered. And in an almost inhumane way. And I just want to say that because it's one of the qualities that you really have is a part of your fabric. It's a part of your being. That makes all the difference when it comes to the way that you serve, to the way that you give, and to the way that you are. So I just want to mention that. It's very, very rare to have that much integrity with your own word and your own discipline. Yeah.
It was hard to ignore that, right? And I've seen you do the exact same thing. It's like when that calling is there, when the thing is there, when that threshold needs to be broken through, or something needs to be put down, or something needs to be addressed, we do it because we've had enough evidence in our lives that will only bring greater liberation, greater connection, greater interconnectedness, greater freedom. So to me, I never balked at it because I was like, whether I'm scared or I'm afraid or I'm nervous about this or I'm unsure of the unknown, the unknown has never left me without. And by following that one part at a time, greater liberation, greater freedom, greater connection. Totally. And why wouldn't I want that,
I love that for you, because I know your personal background, a lot of it, that as you're speaking there, what I feel, which is, the obvious opposite aspect of us, because we're so yin and yang in so many ways, is that you had this such your home base of your mum and your dad were so loving and caring and nurturing, and it almost created this field of like, well, I got this to land on. I don't know if that's true for you, but it feels like you're like, the unknown for you had a quality of uncertainty that you hadn't had, but also it's like in your field you're going to be okay. Whereas in mine, I was like, well, this is fucked, so that's going to be better. Anything's better than this. And so I had to trust in the unknown, because it felt like, well, the world's my oyster. Like, if this is hard and I don't want this, then I better change it. And if this isn't what I want, then I will choose the unknown and let that unfold accordingly. And I just wanted to speak to that, because I think that's, people are in one extreme camp or the other, and we have both of those experiences in what we do.
Yeah, but that's your fire. You're a chain breaker. You see something that doesn't work, and you just make something that does work. Right? I like followed the subtle impulses of spirit guiding me and my own intuition and connection to life. Like you're like, I don't like this, let's form this. I don't have community, I'll create community. I'll forge a way, you know, which is like that path of the warrior that's like, here I am and this is what we're doing, you know. So that's been a tremendous gift to bear witness to see your chain breaking, community building, brilliant genius expression like over the last some time. Yeah. Watch that take shape in new ways and watch your greatest courage come forth. And you know, like the communities you've called together, the communities you've created that weren't there has been so valuable and so moving and so connective for so many people. Like, I don't even think you recognize that. But this woman creates community. And the greatest thing for our collective healing at this given point in history is community. We heal through community. And here we are, putting on the table, you know, a new format of teachings that is a composition of everything we've learned, to every depth that we've gone, to the greatest, clearest seeing that we can muster up at this given point in our lives, backed up and verified also by the world traditions, the world wisdom traditions that speak to the same things. We're finding new ways to compose that together, to gift others that same opportunity to come together in community, to hold accountability, to come back to humility, to love, to truth, to wisdom, to forge and to reshape ourselves and to earn our feathers. To earn our feathers, right? To nourish that part of ourself that hasn't yet been truly nourished, to free that part of ourselves that hasn't yet been permitted that freedom. We take it in our own hands and we say, together we'll create freedom. I'm not waiting for the world. Yeah. We create it together, you know? So your ability to weave that and to encourage others to do that is just unlike anything else I've ever seen.
Thank you, darling. Appreciate you. So I'll do a really short version of my background, not because it's not important, but because we have some, I want to get to the...
Yeah.
Speaking of creating and forging new things. And if you're listening to this, firstly, thank you, especially if you have never known our work before. The real intention behind this is giving really modernity a much deeper pathway, the long way, the apprentice way, where it is so incredibly viscerally felt that you really forged and earned what it is, the gifts that you want to give. And that might sound a little bit strange because the modern world says you can have it all. You can be the expert. Here's how to position yourself as the expert, and here's how to be successful. And, here's how to get you on a TED Talk. It's all about being in front of and being the person who knows the things and is best at the things and is looked up to. And that's sold to us, myself included. I felt that and fell into that for quite some time. And it's so dangerous and it's so damaging, not only because it's deeply dissatisfying, but because there's a false sense of confidence that we override. The doubt, I think doubt is really healthy on this path of service because so many people are responding to that call of wanting to serve, and they're going to do a training, certification, a degree, a psych degree or some kind of allied health practitioner, chiro, physio, osteo, or they're following the path of being a healer and they're doing a 12-week course or a weekend course or a 10-day immersion. And so they're responding to that. But the businesses or the teachers who are selling are, and I would say, like, we are still, we're so deep in it as a culture and in the West that I don't think the people who are selling these short immersions and ways to be certified and, quick 2-step, 7-step, 3-month fast track to being this and that for others. I don't think they mean to do it. Well, not all of them. But the beast, that is a capitalistic viewpoint of how much can I gain and how much can I get and how much can I milk and how much can I grow, and that effervescent exponential point of expansion without any recession, regression, inward, winter, collapse, reform, rebirth as part of the process, respect and reverence to what you are holding as part of the requirement, walking slowly, being humbled, time on the tools, chop wood, carry water. That is so little of what we are invited to participate in when encouraged to or responding to that call to serve. Does that make sense? Did that cover it? Yeah. So this elemental foundation, if you can imagine a triangle, and we'll try and kind of insert a picture. I wonder if that can be done. Ryan, can that be done?
What's that?
Can we insert an image?
Inserting image now.
Over a video? Okay, great. And this pyramid it has 7 foundations and then 1 circle around it, which is quintessence. And it's based on the elements, because it's a universal language, universal teachings, universal principles that our teachers have taught us, that our Indigenous elders, our ancestors, our Indigenous ancestors, even though they are not from the land that we live on now, we all have Indigenous ancestors, and ultimately we all are family. So we go back far enough. All of the principles, these universal principles and teachings, I don't know one yet, and I have looked at a lot, have the elements as part of the modality or part of the medicine or part of the ritual or part of the practice, part of the teachings, part of the way of life. And when I sat back and looked at what we wanted to give those wanting to walk this path, whether they wanted to deepen the way that they walked or really kind of check themselves. It's so easy to get a certificate. I have many. It's very easy to get them, to walk, to pay it, to do the hours, to do that. Sometimes you don't even have to do the hours. You can just do the test at the end and they'll send it to you, or you can just ask for the certificate. Like, you don't get to really earn it, Maybe you want to check, like, really am I embodied, or where are my gaps? Where are my shadows? Where am I blind? Where am I blinded? Where can't I see? There are not many teachers or those able to reflect this. And so this is a synthesization of experience of us hands-on in the arena for 12 plus years in ritual, rites, ceremony work, events, really deep threshold work. The wisdom of our teachers, the wisdom of our lineages, the ancestry lineages that have been our teachers have handed to us to practice and to work with and to walk with as well. And it's a way of looking and understanding in an archetypical lens and an elemental lens, am I embodied in this? And what are the skill sets that go with that? And do I have those skill sets? Because a lot of the modern world appears to have these skills, appears to be embodied in these elements, appears to be proficient in these like tangible, almost over-intellectualized practices, techniques, modalities. There's an appearance that they're mastered, but it's often actually the shadow version, which only appears to be embodied in it or skilled in it, but it's not. So I'm going to take you through that. So a brief of my history of how I walked here is like quite honestly, from when I was very young, whenever I wanted to do something, I would decide to do it, and I just did it. And that was fueled by some pain, yes, but that was there before. I honestly remember it from the very beginning of my life. It was always there, and I'm so grateful for that part of me. It's like I scored some kind of karmic jackpot with that. And my father was wonderful enough to encourage that. And a couple of combination of very survival needs that weren't met. We were really financially unsteady and unstable. And I'm talking like, you know, I had to earn my way to get school uniforms. You know, I paid for them myself. I had to pay for shampoos and conditioners at home because my stepmom didn't, you know, it was part of a control thing that she didn't want me to use the families. Like things like little needs in the household of not feeling welcome, safe, able, cared for. That forged a hyper independence, which is damaging until you meet it and face it and work to integrate that and unravel that, which I'm still working with. Like it's so deep in our culture and was so deep in my system. And I was really good at science, like naturally, biology, chemistry, you know, maths, advanced maths, not so much. English, not so much. Poetry, not so much, not back then. But biology, loved it. Anything to do with the body, with movement, with pushing my physicality to the edge. Like I was, you know, age champion, often, you know, excelled in sport and physical expression. And people, I loved people. And when I had to choose my grades in year 10, I went and I looked at what was a really high earning job. That was a value of mine. That for me, money was freedom in a way. How could I work with people and what was science? And the crosshairs of all of that was radiation therapy. So I studied medicine, Bachelor of Medical Radiation Science, finished that degree. I worked for 18 months and I was like, see ya. For various reasons, which, like, you know, it's a story for another time, but I felt so deeply suffocated. I felt that the system was so disintegrated. It was such a subjective diagnostic, you know, people were objectified. There were lists and analysis and diagnosis, and in no way, shape or form am I ungrateful for the Western medical medicine when we need it. But if you've ever been in it or you're part of it, you understand that it's a big old beast with a lot of shadow side. And I didn't know where I was going, but I knew that my life was not going to be spent there. And so I left and I started to answer the call to those different threads. I looked at psychosomatics and I studied that. I looked at somatic therapies. I looked at some of the more intellectual stuff like neurolinguistic programming, timeline therapy, inner child work. Like I just really immersed myself in it. And Kurt and I met in 2012, I believe it was. And after some resistance of being encouraged to go to a meditation class, I gave in and I went. And I walked in and I was the only student there. And Kurt was already there with probably this shawl over his head in the dark I don't even think he had a candle. And he just gently, lovingly told me to sit down and close my eyes. And he didn't say a fucking word for an hour. And I was tripping balls because I'd never meditated before. And I was just like, what is happening? And then at the end, he said some things that vastly changed the way that I perceived him and perceived the world. He described someone next, can I tell them this? Because you don't do this.
Yeah.
Can I tell them this?
Yeah.
Yeah. He described the essence. He actually described a person next to me and a message from them, and the physical description and the message from them matched my stepfather who had killed himself. And I was like, the fuck, I came here for meditation. I did not know this was happening. Now, Kurt I don't think you ever do it anymore or have ever done it since. Doesn't translate from that world very often, if ever. As a medium, I guess that's what you call.
Can be done.
Can be done, but yeah.
Not my choice to put my energy there.
Yeah. But he did that probably knowing that was the only thing enough for me to be like, what? And and I became a student of his in meditation. And then within the year we were working together, and we've worked and walked together ever since. and with our very different routes of getting there, our very different constitutions of our elements. And I would say has been the most unconditionally joyful, adventure-filled, loving, unconditionally loving relationship that I've ever had, including all relationships of life, probably just because we've done it a million times. And our partners know this too. It's like it's a deep, deep, deep friendship where there's like a quality of honesty and willingness to always look at lovingly. That means that there's never any more than like a essence of friction, and it's already dissolved. So that's been a really beautiful, unique thing that I've never experienced before.
I suppose just what I'd like to add there too, in the arena of teaching, I think our energy is very complementary. I'm great at bringing the great vision, and Amber is so good at the arrow that points at all the nuanced parts that are unseen. I'm a vision keeper and can bring the greater perspective of unity and how that is and hold the blueprint of it. And Amber's ability to fine tune and zero in like a hawk and just like all the tiny bits, it's so complementary. So, you know, and why not? Like, that's what we're looking for. It's a formula that works. That can be both expansive and extremely practical at the same time. That's the teaching of this age, is that we can't just go to blasé land, or we can't be too practical. We have to merge the two, the yin and the yang, the ever-expanding mystery with the particular. And those two together creates a practical wisdom. Wisdom that is expansive and all-encompassing, that can be applied and used in every human being's life to gift them a greater quality of lived experience, a greater depth of connection, and understanding of how to be in relation to oneself and in relation to all things, whether that's food, whether that's people, whether that's animals, or whether that's the earth. We need those two complementing energies, which I feel like we both bring and complement each other in that field. And, you know, it's also been a reflection of many of our students over the years of like, that, when you get how you guys dance together, works so nicely. And it's because of that reason. Nothing is missed there. So, not to float our boat in any way, shape, or form, but we need to speak to what's real too, you know. So
it makes for a really good adventure, that's for sure. So without further ado, I think moving into these elemental foundations. And so there are 7 elements that we mentioned, but then there's an 8th, which is quintessence, and we will get to that. And so I want to reiterate that for seekers of truth, teachers, way showers, those who see themselves as guides, healers, those who want to be of service to humanity, voices, activists, students, apprentices of the worldly wisdom, those who want to understand life and the way and the path of healing more deeply, those who really want to facilitate, practitioners, allied health, teachers, literal teachers like school teachers, those who lead in human, like HR, human management, recruitment. This will all be deeply beneficial for you to have a look of like identifying where you are. Are you founded or embodied in these elements? Are these archetypes immature or mature? Are you expressing the shadow or the light? Which you'll have all, but you'll be able to feel and sense it in your being. We've got some inquiry questions for you to ask of yourself, because this is not for us to tell you, it's for you to be honest with yourself about. And what we want this to bring to light is something that's more tangible, something that can help guide us, which in the modern world, because of the way that trainings are done and how many people are waking up or answering that part of them that is always beginning as a restlessness inside, a dissatisfaction with what is, in the workplace, in self, in what you're giving, and how you're showing up in your relationships. So if you're starting to look towards that restlessness and seek, or whether or not you're well in the mature path of being a messenger, well on your way to like sage energy, teacher energy, master energy, this will still be really useful to have some self-reflection and some honesty about where am I positioned, where can I deepen, where can I expand, where can I grow. And it's only for the long path. This is not the short path. So the very, very bottom of the pyramid is earth. It's the element of earth. The archetype that we have for this, we named the anchor. Think grounded. Like it's the protector of what's important. It's the one who is given trust, deeply, deeply trusted. The tone of it, like if you think of tone, it's rooted, rooted, present, like incredibly present, like a mountain here. The function, I don't really like using that word, but makes sense. It's like the function of it is like to be the boundary of support. You hold the frame. You hold the frame of the situation. You hold your nervous system capacity, your nervous system integrity is not controlled. It's flexible. It's healed. It's malleable. You can move with it. And so it's really about your capacity, right? The shadow aspect of it, rigid, controlled, impenetrable, like not being able to be touched, not being able to be moved, but not because you're rooted and you're grounded, but because you're closed and shut down. So many people who think that they can hold space, they're just shut off, they're disconnected. And it's like, honestly, without this, if you want to facilitate anything, even if you want to facilitate deep, intimate conversations with your children, with your family, with your loved ones, with your work colleagues, let alone facilitate other people moving through thresholds or growth or expansion or walking a path and a journey in their life, you must embody the element of earth. You must be comfortable to stamp your feet on the ground and move something and anchor something and be rooted, not flying off with the fairies all the time.
Oh, totally. And it opens the opportunity, as you said. These are all beautiful things. And then we can look at their shadow. What stops us from being in that true element of earth and understanding its teachings? Our closeness, our rigidity, that forceful, sometimes forceful masculine energy that's like, do, conquer, become more. I've got it sorted. Has a lack of intimacy and also a lack of fertility. It's hard earth, not soft, fertile earth. It's dried up, it's cracked, it's without water. We're talking about out in the desert sort of a human being, that they're solid, yeah, cool. But where's the softness? Where's that plush fertility that new seeds can be planted and we can receive them? They can be held, nourished, and then grow, right? In a barren landscape of somebody who's sturdy and hard and been pushing through their whole life and just getting it done, there's no real intimacy with life or with each other in relation to anything, right? So that's a first point. And that's also what people actually crave for when they're doing too. They're really unknowingly longing for intimacy and connection, but they're so hard, locked up and rigid inside, they don't allow themselves to be influenced by others and also influence others. There's this giving of exchange, right? So right there,
which can only happen in the next layer if you're embodied in a healthy earth.
Exactly. So, foundation must be set. Foundation must be set. Earth must be turned and loosened and fertile in order to welcome that next element.
So the shadow side of this facilitator will shut themselves down to feel steady. So if they're holding space in, it could be a one-on-one situation, and suddenly the person sharing gets so intense in their expression, they're emoting or they're embodying something that is really intense. And the practitioner or the facilitator is like, okay, I have to hold steady. Unconsciously, unless they are really deeply rooted and comfortable in the ground, in the earth, that softness, like that moistened earth, that nourishing, think earth mother, nurturer, deep true tree roots going down and also being connected outwardly, they will disconnect in order to stay steady. They're also going to perform space holding. It's going to be, I see you.
Like clinical.
It'll be clinical.
It's like I'm
Even
talking
in
to
the
a wall.
coaching world, even in
There's no wall.
world,
Where you're not really with me. I want you to be with me.
And
to
there'll
heal.
also be a level of superiority in space holding. Like, I'm here and I'm facilitating you. I'm facilitating you. I see you. I get it. And then their inquiry, you'll see it. There'll be a level of judgment in it. It's just slight, but there's a little bit of condescending tone to it. The inquiry will be, it will be hard as opposed to opening, helping them open and soften. There won't be a sense of, they will try to create steadiness through control and through it's like hardening, even shutting the other person down, stoic, unresponsive, even like the stoicism, like I'm unaffected. But the safety, it becomes stagnant. So the earth element. And there is much to each of these, like pages to each of the archetypes, but we're just
want to touch on them.
The inquiries that we put in for this one, just to consider, it's like, where do I lose capacity under intensity? And this isn't like, do you? It's where. So if you already thought, oh no, I'm great with intensity, pause. Can you feel in your being, in your body, like, what's your threshold? What's your limit? Do you know your limit? Do you actually know what the edge of your capacity is? What if someone's talking about sexual abuse? What if someone's talking about suicide or rape? What if someone starts talking about politics? What if people talk about the history of Indigenous cultures or colonization? Like, where do you tune out? Where do you tune in? Where do you try to control or take things? Like, what's your actual capacity? Is it a length of time in that position? Is it like a capacity for silence where you always want to be appearing to hold, or you're only comfortable in perceived control, and as soon as that person wants to take it in a different direction, is that your capacity? Is that your limit? Like, do you know your edge? What's your capacity? And just lightly hold this one. It's like, can I be the signal of safety in a disorientated field? So if you're in a room of people and for some reason something has happened, maybe the lights have turned off, or someone's phone rings in the middle of something, or someone has like a moment of a disruption in their expression of some kind at an event, is your system the one where people will magnetically move towards you because you like pulse safety? So just be honest about that. Just think about that.
When people are beside themselves, are you with yourself, or are you beside yourself with them?
Yeah.
That's our little cue.
Yeah. That's you, Curtis Liner. Genius. So the second one, we go earth, and then we go water. Water. The element of water, the archetype of the bridge, right? The bridge, the initiator of truth. This is the capacity of intimacy. This is the capacity of relationship. This is relational integrity, right? This is open. Like, it's this person, in the person's presence who is embodied and mature in this archetype, you will never feel missed. You will never feel missed, right? The shadow side, it's the shadow side of the water is because enmeshment. There's a boundarylessness. So it's not, a lot of people think, oh yeah, I'm water nailed. I can be in flow. I'm really with them. I really empathize. I really feel, but there's a loss of boundary. There's a leaky boundary in the connection. There's a leakiness to it. And it's like, empathy without an edge, and there's collapse, a lot of collapse in, and then usually a shoot up to the mind trying to think the way out. How do I get out of this? How do I fix that person's problem? How do I solve the problem?
And an overwhelm to
Overwhelm.
play into, like, I feel everyone's stuff, right? That's the lack of our holding our water in the container.
Yeah.
Being reflective like water, being able to reflect and hold, right? Water is the holder of frequency, holder of memory, and a beautiful mirror. It's a reflector. Clear water without wind blowing across it, nice and clear body of water will reflect like a mirror perfectly. And it will also hold, just like when you've been in the ocean, you can float. You know, when you're in a body of water, you become weightless.
Yeah.
Somebody who holds water can hold you in that space of feeling that there's no part of you that isn't held. Just like you go in the ocean, all of you is held in the ocean. When you're with somebody who embodies water,
It's deep contact.
it's deep contact in that way. It holds you there. It's reflective. It's clear. It's purifying. And it's also, as you said, the archetype for this is like the bridge. Water bridges fire and earth, yang and yin.
Because fire's next.
Yeah, right? So water bridges the two between yang, being doing, and yin, being. Water bridges doing and being. It's the bridge that you can traverse between, when properly embodied, between, well, let's say, something that's coming to me now is like silence in motion, right? It's the ability to do, but holding that quality of being in your doing. I know a lot of people are like, it doesn't quite make sense. Trust me, it does. Silence in motion. And you're like, well, how are you doing but being at the same time? Well, it's an internal state of affair. Being is the tranquility of being reflective, clear, pure within yourself. Silent, and yet in the world you are moving, you are interacting, you're engaging, right? You're able to do, but your state of being is unmoved, right? Silence in motion.
Yeah.
Silence is not disturbed when it is in motion. Water is a carrier of that bridge between doing and being.
And I think what this appears to be like when it's not is rapport. It's like I've got rapport with the person. You know, a lot of trainings will teach you to build rapport. Analyze the person. What do they need? What's happening? What are these expressing? And there's an analysis, there's an objectification. Whereas water is the element that's permeating. It can permeate earth, you know, the body. You're in contact. So you're in contact with that person's energetic body as water. So it's like you can move in their field and their emotional field and their energetic field and their spiritual field. So there's 4 connection points, you know, in water that's like that kind of presence. I just want you to feel really honestly within yourself, if when you are with someone, do you have the grounded capacity enough to anchor in, to be that intimate with someone in those 4 fields without getting overwhelmed, without merging, without taking on their stuff, without losing yourself? Like most people, they just cannot handle that level of intimacy. They just can't. I remember talking to you recently and reflecting one of our students as they matured. They've been with us for 4 or 5 years, I think. She was sharing with me that at one of the events, one of our trainings, I was doing a one-on-one with someone in front of the group. And she said it was just so intimate that at the time in her level of consciousness, she was so uncomfortable with it. Like I was just so with that, because it was a male, and intimate as like we weren't physically touching, but I was so with him. And she said it was like incredibly intimidating and triggering for her system. She was very activated by that. And looking back, it's because that level of intimacy was just unlike anything that she'd ever seen in a practitioner realm, because usually we're used to being like very objective and distant And so it's a really mature skill to be able to be intimate without mistaking it for anything else, or to lose yourself, or to have any kind of projection will happen. You know, we talked about that a lot, but your integrity and your ability to be able to be influenced by them and still have all of your skill sets flowing through and your resonant impulse. And it's like you're creating a field together. And that's what water is. It's like you create this field together.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so nice. So deep contact, water. It's felt, it's honest, it's the bridge. Love it. Sorry, the inquiries for that. So can I feel what's between us? Or if you think about, can I feel what's between myself and another, not just what's within me? Can I feel what's between? And can I feel what's within, not just what's within me, or how I'm interfacing that and perceiving that through the mind? Water is not an intellectual process. Deep contact is not an intellectual process. It's an embodied process.
Felt.
The third is fire, the element of fire. This is the guardian, the guardian, the guardian, the guardian. If you do any kind of threshold work, which honestly, most of the clients that we have are interested and are called to threshold work. And threshold work is anytime we go through growth. If you put it in like mythic terms, there's like you leave, you go through a threshold, and you go through a return. You know, the hero's journey. You go through a journey, but it's like the threshold is you're in it. You know, when you're in it, that's the threshold. There's no up, there's no down. The system is like on fire. It's hot inside. You're peeking out. All of your cravings come up, all of your fears come up, all of your doubts come up, everything bubbles to the surface. You feel completely out of control. You don't know what way is out. You can't see a way through. Like you're absolutely in the threshold. Threshold work. It's birth work, death work, ceremonial work, ritual work, rites work. And then a lot of like coaches, teachers, psychologists, like teachers would be exposed to thresholds in teenagers and children all the time. Tantrums are thresholds, you know, tantrums are thresholds, because can they get through a difficult thing out the other side without you saving it, fixing it, or putting their fire out? Like tantrums are threshold work. And your own inner thresholds. Fire, it's like the guardian, not the doer, not the person dragging them along, not the person pushing them through, the fucking guardian of something sacred. That's threshold work.
The fire keeper.
It's protective. It's initiatory. It's steady. And like
It says, this vision.
Go.
The fire speaks of, I'll keep the fire burning, whether you're here with me or not. If you need to wander, you wander. You'll come back and you'll have a safe fire, a warm fire to be around. The keeper of the fire can tend to the fire, doesn't take his or her eye off it. Energetically is keeping that light, that spirit burning for the pure means of keeping the fire alight. You know, if others wander, that's okay. They'll come back and they'll sit around that fire where we can share story, where we can be together, we can connect. Yeah. I keep the fire burning. I keep that light alive no matter what. The guardian of the fire, the life force.
Yeah.
I guard the life force. It is sacred. I guard the life force. It is sacred. Whether anyone else recognizes it or not doesn't matter. One day they will see, one day they will sit with me here, and one day they will be caretakers and carriers of the fire. And they will keep their fires burning in their communities, and we will connect fireplace to fireplace. Together, we are the fire keepers.
The fire keepers of this world are like every element is important. But right now, so many people are going through thresholds. And what the shadow side of the fire keeper is or does is over-intervene. They interrupt. They try and save. They try and fix. They try and dominate the situation. They try and be the hero. They try and be important.
They want to stand in the light. There's still an insecurity there. Where somebody who needs to take up space. It's it's still playing out. And these things, these little niggly things we need to look at. It's like, wow, I do over inject myself. I inject my opinion here so I can be seen, because truthfully, I feel unseen. So I need to make myself noticeable so I can fit in. So I can, these are all these little unconscious patterns we play out that are humbling as shit to look at. And we need to look at them so we can have some solid leaders in our community leading the new generations to come, and also the generations here. You know, and this is a huge driving force, especially for myself, and I know you too, of why we do this work. Is to, like, we're not saying that we know the answers, we're not saying that we have something that people don't, we're just reminding people of what's already here and looking at things that are a little bit difficult to look at and humble us to be like, whoa, yeah, I overextend myself there.
Or I push for the breakthrough.
Yeah.
Like the idea that they're fixated on an outcome. Yeah. We're going this way and I'm going to get you there. Like the over-identification with your role.
Yeah. Instead of just being able to hold, patiently hold. Yeah. You'll come to it. Your transformation, your healing will unfold exactly as it needs to. All I need to do is just be here. Yeah. And be here. Tend to this fire and you'll come and you'll see.
In this, the shadow of it is the sense of the need, the unmet need, or the shadow, the unconscious need for power will replace presence, and it'll just leak into the space. You know, in my image, I have like birth in my mind because it's the place where it happens a lot, and it's like a big part of the field that we're in as well. But it happens a lot in ceremony as well, right? So it's just, if you watch a guardian, like a true mature guardian, they won't fucking flinch at anything. They won't push, they won't pull, they won't flinch. There's no judgment. There's infinite levels of patience, and there's no wrong turn. Like every balk, every setback, they understand it's not a linear process, that time is gone in that space. Like you are with the fire. You have really embodied all that heat and endured and endured and endured and endured, and you have come out the other side without someone pushing or pulling you through. So you know that you can get there, and it is a very rare person for that to be really embodied, because a lot of that really does require initiation. Mm-hmm. For women, it's you need to go through your bleed, the archetype of the mother to be embodied, whether that's actually birthing a child or moving into that archetype in a different way. Marga, crone. You know, so moving through menopause is a huge, like one of the biggest initiatory fires for the biological female, and for men, it's external rites of passage. And so, like, women self-initiate through, you know, our biology in many ways, and men need to go out and get their first blood. You know, women have their first blood, mean to go and seek their first blood. That's why rites of passage is so important and so central to Indigenous cultures that thrive, because that initiation needs to happen, because they understand that the guardians have earned their place, and it's just not something that you can do in a weekend training or even a 12-week training or even a couple of years training. This is decades in maturity.
Essentially, the guardian cultivates energetic impeccability.
It's protection.
Mm-hmm. Energetic, clean impeccability, impeccable with energy. Yeah. Yeah. Uses it wisely. Uses it when it's required.
Totally.
Can be hot and direct and like an arrow when needed. If not, can be patient, just like a warm fire burning and inviting. Magnetic when magnetic is needed.
Nourishing in that warmth. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. We must continue on. So the custodian, air. So air, heart. This is relational integrity. Custodian, it's accountable, it's respectful. That's the maturity of this archetype. It's accountable and it's respectful. I did not ask the inquiries for the fire, but I'm not going to because we have to move on. Actually,
can't you do it?
Just, can I protect transformation without pushing for it? Can I protect it without pushing for it? So air. So this is like the unseen agreements, the most essential ingredients, yes, agreements of like relation. The air is, if you think about prayer in terms of intention or just speaking into being, spell, prayer, think words, just think your breath, prayer. Even if you're wishing or you're intending or you're speaking truth, they're held on the breath. They're carried through the breath. And air from the heart carried through the breath, they're speaking to past, present, land, spirit, other, and self. So it's all relationships. It's relational integrity. And so it's this accountability. It's ethical root. It's right relationship with all things. It's reciprocity. And this is a very, very, very sticky one in the West for our industry, for the industry that if we sit back and really look at a lot of the ways that businesses are structured, what people charge, how they do it, how they claim it, what they're teaching without blessing, what they're claiming is their own, all of that. It is another version of a mindset that has caused chaos and disharmony and destruction across the world in cycles over and over and over and over again, where people come in, they take what they want, they milk it for what it's got, and then they resell it back to the same people at a what's it called when it's
selling ice to Eskimos?
Yeah, selling ice to Eskimos. When I used to work in sales, that was a compliment given to me. I used to work in gyms. They're like, you could sell an ice to an Eskimo. I'm like, oh, that's a painful skill. But I have been in the dark side of sales. Like I know it. I know what it's like, and I know what it feels like. I know you know, where there's these courses on how to position yourself as this, how the perfect sales pay, all of this stuff. And there's a light side to that. There's goodness in getting yourself out there. So I'm not saying it's not about money. Money is neutral. We put the charge on it, but it's how we go about it, and are we integrity with it? And I think that a lot of people who think they are not. And
what was the highlight on that? Relational integrity, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Even that, if you look at, I love to look at things simply. If we look at relational integrity and go breath,
yeah,
breath is relational integrity. And as Amber said, see, it's all connected. Even your breath, you breathe out, trees breathe in. Trees breathe out, you breathe in. Relational integrity, that I can't just do this by myself.
Yeah.
And that when I gift my breath, my word, my communication, right, we can always refine how and what we're communicating. Yeah, I love that saying, say what you mean and mean what you say, right? We as a collective human race are very sloppy with our words, and words can be like daggers, right? They're not in relational integrity with air, right? But if we're mindful and present with the words we choose to communicate and why. Can I communicate clearly and from an integral heart space of bringing what is needed to the table and nothing else? Why bring anything else? It just creates more carnage, more collateral damage, because I can't be accountable, or I'm not even in deep enough connection with my own air element and integrity with that. It offers us the opportunity to look at those things and mean what I say and say what I mean. So there can be, we eliminate that potential for great confusion between human beings in relationship. We eliminate that putting on the table things that can be tremendously hurtful and impactful and influential.
Yes.
We can mislead with our word, with our breath.
Yes.
We can manipulate with our word and our breath. We can create havoc and carnage and all of these things, right? So
Think
there's
about
so
morality
much.
as well, and superiority with the way that we think about our self, relationship to self, and relationship to other.
Yeah.
That's all within this.
Totally. So like exploring these elements, exploring these points can offer, to be honest, all human beings, like this, what we're speaking on can be beneficial for everyone. That's why that's why we have this calling to share these things, is because there's, without exception, maybe some of the great sages that are walking the face of the earth, it may not benefit them because of the state of consciousness they already currently have on board. But for the rest of us, this is can be life-changing and life-altering, the opportunity to move into new potential timelines of expressing myself in new ways, connecting in new ways, understanding, so I can bring beauty into the world, harmony into the world, instead of discordancy in relation.
And it's such a beautiful aspect it's very humbling. It's really humbling, and it's one of the tricky ones where it can become a way to, it easily slips into righteousness. Easily slips into righteousness, or surveillancing others. It's one where we can be like, they're out of integrity, or they're not in right relation. It's a surveillance, or it's another form of trying to control. Where it's, if I'm not in protected, it can be an overcorrection to correctness. And that's the shadow side of this. And so there needs to be just as much respect, reverence, unconditional love. It's the heart, relational integrity. It's the heart, it's air, it's breath towards self, and not a overcorrection of others, or looking outside of others. Or if you're hearing this, thinking of all the people that you think are out of relational integrity, just watch for that.
But that essentially, again, another core point that we see in our communities is division. Right? My belief versus your belief, our belief as a mob versus your mobs, our religion against yours. It's all air. What I say, air, against what you say, and then I go in to defend my point of view, and the other thinks they're right and righteous in that, and then defend. We create a continuation of division when essentially we're here, if we're clued on and can come back to some sort of intelligence within ourselves. Division doesn't work. We have to unify.
Sure.
We have to unify. So tending to things like this, opening to things like this, where we can dissolve the dividing force within ourselves, create repair, and what comes online is unity. And the one who knows then speaks not, right? And when they choose to speak, their words unify. Even if there's dividing minds that think otherwise, they're sucked into the vortex that you hold with tremendous gravity. Truth holds gravity. Truth is recognized no matter where it's spoken, who it's spoken by. Truth holds gravity. All right? So when those words coming from a unified space within you are spoken with that integrity, it will always unify the environment around you, the minds around you. Even if it's momentary, it offers the opportunity and the invitation for unity and not division.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm. And I think that on that thread of unity and repair, this archetype will embody repair work. They'll look at their ancestral line and look at their relationship to country and earth and nature. Self, of course, but we need to start to, okay, am I avoiding my, there's so much to it. It's like we really also need to look at ourselves for appropriation here, like right relationship and appropriation of other cultures.
Appropriation and appreciation.
And that's really important, because if we don't, then we become echoes, and we become, this is from you, like confused teaching and creating confusion. Like if you're not really in right relationship with the modalities or the lineages,
the blind leading the blind.
Blind leading the blind.
Never works out well.
It doesn't. And it's, I mean, yeah. And that's part of this work. That's part of this archetypes work. And the maturity is relational repair. And it might actually mean giving up some of the stuff that you teach, that you say that you carry, or starting again, or finding, like, how do I actually walk that path with permission? And there's a balance there, because there's also universal principles that nobody owns. But then if you want to do something a certain particular way, then you need to look at how you're speaking about it, what you're calling it, how you're holding it, where it's coming from, the integrity of it. Like, it's really important stuff in this field. Okay.
What's your inquiry question?
What are the real consequences? Like, what are the consequences, honestly, of how I hold this work?
Or how I hold my word.
Or how I
hold and deliver my word.
And where am I in performance, posturing, or people pleasing?
What's the second one? Imposturing.
Posturing. Posture I'm holding. Where am I in performance, posturing, or people pleasing? The weaver. Vibration. This is the seer of the unseen, the listening to the unseen forces, the vibration. It's like
the field of the creative,
the
artist, the musician, the visionary.
It's the qualities, or the tone is sensitive, receptive, and really interconnected, very interconnected with everything. The function is it's a voice, but it's living attunement. It's a listening that's so deep, and there's a symbolic fluency. So a way that you see and recognize patterns, a symbolic fluency to it, a living attunement to the unseen. This is reading patterns, rhythms, ways. Like, really mature, excellent musicians will have this. This one will be much more mature in musicians by far.
So reading of, I think, like that energetic domain is a reading of blueprints. So what lies behind the scenes, which takes the cultivation of sensitivity.
Yes.
So you'll find in most creatives, they're highly sensitive beings. So their nervous system, their body, and their mind is attuned to pick up on subtle vibrations, not the gross vibrations. And by gross, I mean the most obvious. So subtle vibrations are often unrecognized or unregistered by the instrument of a human being, body, mind, emotional field, right? The lower three bodies are not sensitive enough to pick up on vibratory shifts, whereas those that are inclined that way, often you'll find the quality of sensitivity in those beings can still always be refined and is appreciated by creatives to become even more refined, so they become more like a more phenomenal instrument for vibration, whether that's through art, poetry, word, movement, music, anything really. It's a heightened degree of sensitivity in the instruments to pick up on the unseen forces or the blueprints behind the scenes that is not so obvious or registered by normal ordinary functions of a human being that hasn't yet done that refining work. So even if somebody isn't in that field of being a creative, we all long for creativity. It's a part of our expression as human beings. To read the subtle, to know the subtle, to be attuned to the subtle. Because also, even in relation, if we're talking about just a husband and wife, or a mother and a child, those picking up on vibrational cues is so important to know when your child is a little off, or maybe they've been impacted by something you've said or something in the environment. They don't speak it out, and it's ordinarily not that obvious, but the energetic cue, if you're sensitive enough, can be picked up and you can address it, and we can go about, creating repair there or having a conversation that would inevitably, remove the need for that child potentially playing that out a number of times till it becomes so consuming that they're really locked in and it's creating real suffering pain.
And I mean, transfer that to facilitation.
Yeah.
Like you're not picking up actually on what's actually happening for the client because you're with them here instead of you're with the subtleness of what's going on.
That's one of the biggest things, right? Because sometimes in facilitation, the facilitator thinks they know best, and they already premeditated or precognized a
evolutional direction.
Exactly, without truly listening. A true healer is listening, not just with their ears, but listening through the eyes, listening through body cues, listening through the tiny little flutters of emotion that arise.
Like that.
They're listening in every cell of their being, and they're not already pre-strategizing a response or entertaining. I can't wait till you stop talking because I know the answer for you. That is our mismatch. We need, there again appears that intimacy that we were talking about in the water.
Yeah,
Everything, every one of these elements are complementing. They're building upon and adding to and complementing and adding more color to the scene that's it's being painted, and to us being and reaching and tapping into our true potential as real facilitators that are rooted in deep intimacy, understanding the elemental connections, directions, ancient wisdom, married with our own personal wisdom, carrying integrity, honesty, honor, respect for the sacredness of all things, but also being relatable, practical, approachable, honest, which is all like, fuck, that quenches a thirst in people to be met like that, to be seen that fully, to be held that properly, cleanly, but intimately, but beautifully, but softly, but also can be spoken to firmly. All of these married in this one mixing pot, which is the instrument that we carve, right?
The vessel.
Whoa, that shit is potent as fuck. And we need more people like this in the world, because these are our leaders, right? And this is why I always get on my horse and ride, because I drive this because this is what we need in the world. We need human beings that have touched all of those parts, that have explored all of those parts, that understand and can embody all of those aspects and qualities, not rejecting some and just keeping the pretty ones, but knowing the dark, knowing the light, and knowing everything in between, to help us move forward in this world in a good way for generations to come, and for the earth as a whole, and every living being that is a part of this living, pulsating, breathing organism that we call our home, amongst a galactic and cosmic home that is our universe, that offers us infinite potential to explore things that most people haven't even yet started to comprehend. We belong to something so phenomenal, but first we have to do the work that is being put on the table. Here, we come together here. We meet each other here, and we do this good work here. And this is what will take us forward in ways unimaginable, right? And I love to fly off with myself, let that flight come, because I know it excites the shit out of everyone else too, right?
Oh, it's beautiful.
It may wig out some people, and this dude's fucking crazy, loco. But that's a good thing, right? We need some loco energy to go, let's drive, let's go, let's look at it, let's drop in, let's explore. This is the invitation so many have been waiting for.
Yeah.
And we are, I feel, and can only always speak from my truth, so privileged and so blessed as emotion arises to be serving that, to be the instrument, to be a mouthpiece, just an instrument to bring that into the world. You know, that's special. That's special. This will take us where we need to go, but we need to come together, and we need to go together, and we need to walk together. And I'm so privileged to be doing this work and offering these teachings and this wisdom and this knowledge and this as a totality, because this is what our human family needs to unify. So I will serve that, and I will hold that, and I will work that until my last day here. Wow, Kurt just went then, didn't he?
Thank you. Thank you, darling. I get it. I'm here.
To get back on track.
So,
Pick up the thread.
the shadow side of the weaver. It's overwhelmed disassociation and mysticism. So there's a quality of when the rest of the layers of the elements aren't embodied, if earth, water, fire, air, ether, because we're ether and vibration here. I hope we said ether. If not, ether and vibration. If we're ether and vibration here, because if you're sensitive without having those other elements underneath, it'll be overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a high sensitivity and you get all the information coming in, then the overwhelm is a way to see, okay, there's a maturity in this. These probably need to, I would say, earth, like so many people need to really mature their earth and their fire and their water. Actually, there's all those underneath.
Well, we could just say essentially lacking in foundation,
Totally.
in roots, like a tree with a really heavy canopy. If it doesn't have a trunk and a root system that is stronger and deeper than it is taller, it will fall over.
Yep.
Same as a human being. Some are born with a connection to the ether, to the astral planes, to the higher planes, and they may be visionaries, and maybe seers, and maybe mediums, and maybe psychics. But what often is, to be honest, lacking is grounded foundation. Yeah. So sometimes their approach isn't as effective as it could be, and their lives also can be greatly confusing and disoriented and disorderly because of a lack of deep rootedness and stability in those lower planes. And some, I know, have crossed paths with many students over the years that are like, I'm reaching for the stars practically. Like, I want to know, but unwilling to address the foundation. And I'm like, yeah, cool. Let's chase the unknown. Let's go into those planes. But as far as you go there, you need to be as deeply rooted and grounded. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Yep. It's like being, like we've all spoken to across paths.
In a couple of ceremonies where it's so...
Yeah. We need the both. We need up and down simultaneously. We need expansion, but groundedness, because what is the use of having infinite expansion with no tether to the earth? Mm-hmm. No tether to here, to practicality, to applicability, to know when to apply it, timing, precision. All of those things are in that good, earthy, watery, fiery energy that needs to be sound foundation, to take off from and to land back into.
Yep.
That's, and then people's wish comes true. They get to explore greater expanse because their roots are so deep. Essentially, they can hold the energy of it. As you expand into fields of multidimensional awareness in greater heightened states of consciousness, heightened state of consciousness is essentially a field of high vibratory energy. And if the grounding isn't there, we can cook the system. We can cook the nervous system, which is overwhelmed. Too much energy passing through a circuit of any kind that doesn't have a strong grounding cord will melt the wiring. We melt the wiring and short circuit the nervous system.
That's a good thing to understand, that if you're not embodied and mature in these, like another impact that can happen, we've seen it, we've probably experienced it, is short circuiting those you're trying to help.
Mm-hmm.
Because you think that it's like,
and it becomes detrimental. And your first purpose and intention was to help. And then they're short circuiting.
Yeah, putting way too much information in,
yeah,
pushing too hard, too much over. Okay. Yes. Wait, my inquiries. You should do the inquiry for this one. Yours would be better. This is Kurt's arena. I have some maturing to do in my weaver. I'm much more comfortable in my earth, my water, my fire, and my air. And even my ether, but moving into this field, this is a language to mature in, and I'm a couple of years in, whereas I in many ways it was already on as soon as you were here. But it's what I put was like, can I hear what life is saying through me? So it's, can you witness? Can you be the witness of what life is saying through, hear what life is saying through me? And you need to kind of take a couple of steps back while staying connected to the body to hear that and to really ask that, because it's like through the earth and the waters and the fire and the air and the ether and vibration, are all of those embodied? Am I expressing in all of those? Am I able to move between those states fluidly? Do I have maturity in them so that I can hear what life is saying through me?
Mm. Detached perception.
The next one is the initiate. So this is the void. This is another really essential. Like, they're all essential, but it's such a it's one that is often people are guiding it without readiness. The void. And so this is the metabolizer. This person's this archetype is like they're a bit rough, they're a bit feral, they're a bit disheveled because they've gone to the underworld and back. They're not pretty, they're grace filled, but they're not graceful.
They give you what you need, not what you want.
They're the walker between. They're honest, they're stripped back, and they're devoted. Like, it's a clear, completely loving, but nothing either side of the truth. It's just it. And the skills are like, they can really stay in the dark without trying to fix it or spiritual bypass it. There's disorientation without collapsing. It's a real trust in the darkness because it's been forged, not because I trust the darkness. Like, they've gone to the underworld, they've gone through the depths. Their real medicine is grief and mystery and loss. They understand the medicines of those deeply, deeply. Grief, mystery, and loss. It's not something that you're trying to transmute. It's a part of the medicine. It's really a part of the medicine. And there's a real, they understand what Martin Shaw calls the etiquette of the underworld. The etiquette of the underworld. And it's the descent, it's the void, it's the place of nothing. So it's do you imagine that at the end of every breath there's a void before the beginning? And the void is mentioned in so much myth and story and indigenous cultural yarning and storytelling of all time. It's so old, it's so ancient. You look, the void is always before life, always before rebirth, always the void. And it's such a state that the West scrambles in. scrambled to avoid the void.
Mm.
Self included, it's taken time. So but the shadow of it is like a romanticizing of it, an addiction to that void spot, almost like a inaction. And I'm just going to stay in incubation.
Yeah. It's too much flow without action.
Yeah.
Even
there's a
though
void
life is
without
calling.
integration.
Yeah.
So I saw this hilarious meme once and it said, oh shit, what was it? Oh, I forget it. But it was like something about like you've had so much. Do you want some integration with your like you've been having a lot of insight lately? Like, would you like a little bit of integration? Like it's just like insight after insight after insight after insight after insight and breaking down and breaking down. But there's an avoidance of putting my feet back in the ground, taking some responsibility, integrating through, caring for myself, choosing a new, like, there's the avoidance of the birth again, like the coming back into a body, coming back into being.
Yeah. Which is like that stage of honoring everything that has been brought forth and we've been blessed with. It's like insight is a blessing, clearer seeing is a blessing, but to stay there desiring more and more and more and more of that and not doing anything with it, like not walking with it and not living it, not applying it is
avoidance.
Yeah. And it doesn't do it justice, because that's when, in fact, the teaching and the insight become more than just a conceptual ideology. It becomes a lived experience. It has to be put into action. And that's really, for me, the void there is a shifting from knowledge to wisdom. Yeah. We can accumulate all the knowledge in the world, all the insight in the world, and in that mythical state in between. But wisdom is the application of the knowledge itself. The lived experience of knowledge applied becomes wisdom.
100%. I've written that the distortion of it is like devotion becomes like from despair, and it's those people who have this sacred wound or this sacred unraveling, and I'm exaggerating a little, like embellishing it a little, because it's easier to see it in ourselves through embellishment. It becomes something we identify with. So, and as a practitioner and as a facilitator, gosh, it's such a blind spot in a lot of practitioners and facilitators, because in the West we avoid an entire descent. We avoid the winter, we avoid the cold, we avoid the yin, we avoid the void, we avoid all of that. Or it's enacted and it's performed, but it's not actually done. Like, it's gritty, it's messy, it's ugly. We hear the hero's journeys of people rising from the ashes and the stories of it, but if a practitioner or a teacher or someone tells their story and everything is like golden roses at the end, like, I don't fucking believe you. I don't, like, where do you expose your shadow? Like, where can you really look at the untethered part of you, the ugly part of you, the wild part of you, the disheveled part of you? Where have you come to terms and honesty with that? And not as a, like, putting yourself up for execution or ridicule or criticism, but just having all aspects of yourself having been able to touch and being able to have a range to move between, as opposed to just being like the firebird who's come from the ashes at the end. It's like that you're still in touch with that aspect too. You're not untethered from it.
Yeah, which is like that coming to life, no longer hiding. Here I am, here's all of me, here's my shadow, here's my light, here's everything. And essentially living in that way is tremendously liberating, because you don't realize how much time and energy and effort you go into keeping what you have hidden.
Yeah.
Keeping what you have hidden. So it's not seen for many reasons, and we justify it all day long, that we may not be accepted or loved or lovable or worthy of love.
Good enough, or successful enough,
exactly.
ready enough.
So best keep those things hidden, because I don't know that the world's ready to see them, or if they
come over them.
Yeah, right. But it's about the one who goes into the void and explores that fully can come into life with nothing hidden, essentially in their birthday suit and comfortable in the skin they're in just as they are. And that is refreshing as shit. Refreshing. It's nourishing. Those human beings are the human beings that we feel most comfortable with, because essentially you feel the quality of non-critical, non-judgmental energy. They're non-judges because they don't judge themselves anymore. They don't criticize themselves anymore. They love and appreciate all of the opposing forces, having realized that what looked to be opposing was actually complementary, not actually opposing. They were just two forces, two extremes of the same thing, separated by varying degrees. And they were able to reconcile the degrees between them and realize that love and hate within me are essentially the same thing, just on varying degrees separating them. They can reconcile the indifferences within themselves by going into the void, and in turn offer that energy to the world of non-judgment, of non-critical thinking towards other, and can accept others no matter what they're portraying, no matter where they're at, no matter what's going on. You are accepted, you are held, you are seen, and you are appreciated. That is the most potent repairing formula that can be gifted.
And that's what, like, if we come back to like being rooted in the container, being in deep contact, having that fire, knowing as the guardian matures, like walking through the fire, and the relational repair, like these archetypes, as we mature in them, as we embody the elements, we become a living, walking modality.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Okay, we must move on.
We're almost there.
One inquiry. What have I not grieved?
What have I not grieved? That's a good one. I've seen over the years, even proposing that, some people have never grieved.
I know.
Really grieved. They don't even know what grief really is.
Grief, we will never end this.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
That's a good inquiry, though.
Thank you. Number 7 is the vessel.
The vessel. 7.
The embodiment of lived wisdom. It's true insight. So the tone is rhythmic, reverent, and embodied. Rhythmic, reverent, and embodied.
It's the crown.
Really is ceremony. They can be a walking ceremony.
And why wouldn't they be? Right? It's the crown of it all. Thinking seventh energy center is our 1,000-petal lotus as well. At the crown, at the top. It is the embodiment of the ceremonialist, which brings all of the elements: the fire, the earth, the air, the water, right? The vibration, the ether, and brings them all together into one cohesive unit. And can access, work with, move between, and operate within any of the lower fields at will.
So the skills that I've listed are exactly what you said. Hold ritual space without performance or theatre. Move with rhythm, not urgency. So it's leading in time with life. And they can weave in silence, sound, movement, and structure as a living prayer. You know, and the shadow of this is really it's rife. It's performance of the sacred. It's painful. Ritual without substance. Control through reverence. It's a real shadow side in the West.
Which is essentially like a lack of authenticity.
Yes.
Which is felt experientially and qualitatively. The imposer, when, you know, this is, again, to be humble, all of us have played the the role before.
100%.
In whatever arena it may be, it doesn't matter. We've all played at pretending. And that's also perfectly beautiful, because what do children do? They pretend, they imitate. Right? It's where our origins started of learning, is to imitate and to pretend. We play pretend games. We also imitate mum and dad. Right? I pretend to be, little girls pretend to be mamas when they're so young, and they pretend to be this. Little boys pretend to be builders or mechanics or, carpenters or whatever it is.
Florists. My best friend was a male and he was a florist.
Yeah, right? We play pretend. So it's there, and we all do it. But as we get older, then we're pretending, whether we're pretending in relationship, whether we're pretending with clients, whether we're pretending and playing that role, what essentially is transmitted is a lack of authenticity. That isn't actually your truth. It's just like, somebody being like, I am a meditation teacher. I know silence. And you're like, not sure about that. Right?
You can feel how busy they are.
Right. Yeah. They can say all day and try and convince me all day, but silence is recognized and felt. Like you can't. You can try and hoodwink me, but that's not going to work, because it's apparently clear somebody who holds silence and is in silence, they transmit something qualitatively different that is authentic. And when they speak those words and they say, I'm in silence, people, they feel it already. You don't even need to sell it anymore. You don't need to say anymore. It's there. It's a lived, you are experienced by them in that space. And this is also what we gravitate to and we feel most at home with, is authenticity. Because when somebody's being truly authentic and not pretending, the other or whatever people are in the environment naturally gravitate to them because they feel at ease, because you're not hiding something. I can feel you just are as you are, and what you say is honest and truthful, and that is refreshing in and amongst a world of so many deceiving energies and misperceptions and miscommunications, and we're unsure who to trust anymore. People scamming online, people scamming in business, people being dishonest here,
It's in this arena.
manipulating in relationships, or trying to coax me for my money. Maybe they're saying they're going to help me, but they really don't intend that. We're not sure where to turn to trust anymore. But somebody in this energy can become so deeply trustworthy because they move into deep authenticity. Because of all the prior work that came into that, and they can synthesize it all together.
Yeah. Well, that's it. It's you just spoke to the shadow side. It's I think control disguised as devotion. People are like, I do my spiritual practice, I do my dieta, or I do my this, or I run my marathons, I do my, you can extend not just in that arena. It could be like, I do my study, I do my training, I do this, I show up, I do my, I meet my KPIs, I do my scripts, I practice my KRAs, which I learned was a thing in like in the business world of like key responsibility agreements. Yes, I remembered it. It's like I am doing these things, and it being actually a form of control, not from a place of devotion to what it is that you're doing. And it's theater. It's not attunement. It's an over curation of moments. It's bringing the like aesthetic in instead of being yourself. Like there's a lot of shadow in this. Rhythm and ritual are like the key points of this, but it can't be. Like, it's true sight is a major aspect of this archetype. It's true sight, and so that true sight, you'd be able to see yourself clearly. Like, there's no, and it's actually comes organically when you've embodied the other lower ones, the other elements. It's not something, but most people are reaching for that because in the West we see what we want to believe we is the epitome. So we just go straight aesthetically for that expression, but it's very disembodied. And
we skipped all the building stages of that.
Manipulative.
Yeah.
It's so manipulative.
Well, it's like a flower, a fake flower, right? I mean,
That's exactly it.
I want to be a beautiful rose, but instead of growing from decomposing things in the earth and slowly traveling towards the light of the sun and putting all this energy, we just become, people want to imitate, so they become a plastic flower, a plastic rose, and be like, see, I am this. But there, as we can obviously see, qualitatively is a very big difference between a plastic rose. Although on the surface value looks, maybe from 5-10 meters away, be like, oh, look, there's a flower, I'm going to go sniff it. I've been caught out by that before, and walked over and be like, this isn't a real flower, this is a plastic flower. And just like we do that with people, we walk up to someone and we're like, you're a teacher, you're someone who understands, you're a professional, and then you give them a good old sniffing, and they're definitely not that. They're an imitation of that. And we're disheartened. And in turn, we also shut down from trusting. We trust even less. Yeah. If that person, that man, that woman, that someone who was trying to sell that they are a rose, drawed me in, and I felt like a sucker, and I feel like super embarrassed by that, I'm less likely to trust somebody else. Yeah. But if we're producing that prior work and all of the elements that go into growing the real rose until it's ready in time to release, its bud and become a flower and produce an essence, a fragrance in the world that is intoxicating, absolutely intoxicatingly beautiful and unique, that's the real deal. Yeah. And that's when people lose themselves in you and with you, and that real connection that we truly long for is made. And a gift can be given to the world instead of hoaxing a hoax of a charlatan that's pretending to be the thing and wasn't willing to grow the rose but just produced it in an artificial means. I feel like that really summarizes that one.
It does.
Yeah.
That's good.
And then
3.
Yeah.
Can I serve something sacred without needing to be seen?
Yeah.
Now, we have taken more time than we planned.
Yeah.
But we still
definitely
have one direction. We have quintessence.
The synthesizing ray.
The color.
Yeah.
All of the things. It's the field. It's the field that holds everything. Quintessence. So if you imagine the triangle, the diagram, the pyramid with all of the elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether, vibration, void, light, around it is a circle, it's the field, it's the living, it makes everything animate, it's quintessence. This isn't actually something to embody as an archetype. We're just speaking to it because it exists. And when we're working with other people, building a relationship, going into right relationship with air, relationship with the quintessence, with that, it's, if you think of 4 directions, it's the 5th direction. It's always present. It's what animates everything. And in our way, we include that as part of the field. It's part of what we're listening to. It's part of what we're working with. It's a relationship that we're building, the quintessence expressed in the person that we're with or the group that we're with, in ourselves, in the bigger field, in nature, the patterns, the symbols, the rhythm. Like, it's a part of our facilitation. It's a part of how we walk and teach and carry and hold. Mm-hmm. It's the aliveness. It's
the life force. It's the animating force. It's the spirit, the life, the universal mind, consciousness, whatever we want to call it. It goes by 1,001 names. It's been named by 1,001 people, but it is one thing. It is the unifying field itself that all things arise from, and all things shall fall back into. All things are expressions of, and all things are experienced by. It is the all-encompassing, synthesizing majesty of it all.
Yes. Yep. And it has a shadow side. And it's avoidance of responsibility, spiritual bypassing, and disassociation in the name of flow, going with the flow, but are not taking responsibility. And there's like their freedom is how they evade. Like it's their stake in the ground of like, but this is freedom. But they're evading, they're being avoidant, they're evasive. Yeah, and I wrote like the misuse of aliveness and spirit led to avoid accountability, structure, and grounded action. You know, there's a confusion. It's like they think that every impulse they get is their intuition. What?
I was just thinking of how many people I've met that have done that.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard.
Well, it's part of the mystery. It's manipulation. Yeah. It's the shadow side of working, thinking that you're working with quintessence.
Yeah, which can only be if we've skipped those prior stages. 100%. Because a misperception like that can only come with ungroundedness, that you're unable to interpret what's in what is clear interpretation and perception of intuitive impulse, and what is bypassing fabrication of something, you know, in order to avoid, and so on and so forth. That shadow side can be completely eliminated through that preliminary work.
Because it brings light along the way.
Yeah, but it's okay, you know, because as we said, we're sharing these things to see where we're at too.
In the West, because that's actually how we're taught.
Yeah.
And I think that's really something to acknowledge, is that most of those starting in the arena of coaching, of leadership, of management, of parenting, of wanting to be a healer, a teacher, a facilitator, a practitioner, will start expressing the shadow because the West has so much shadow expression as our blueprint of how to help others. Ooh, but that's why we got to work.
We're writing it.
Come back to it.
Yeah.
So that's the 7 and the 8th. And well, our major intention is to just bring some light or bring some awareness to those who are wanting to facilitate or seeking study or apprenticeship or truth or depth in how they walk or how they understand the world and how they serve. And these are slithers, like these are just dot points that we've grabbed. They're so the nuance of the archetypes. It's simple and yet it's deep. And the nuance of this is, for me, exciting and incredible because it helps us really see ourselves. And working with archetypes makes something really that can be so intangible that we can grasp it and we can grab it and we can look at it and we can use it not as a way to self-criticize or make ourselves wrong or back up the theory that we're not ready or we're not good enough, but actually, oh my gosh, like, okay, here's some awareness to this. This is where I can mature. Oh my gosh, I do avoid the fire. Whoa, I am walking with this modality, but I have not built relation. You know, it's a pathway of real honesty, and that's what this is. It's maturity comes with honesty. Mm-hmm. So starting to be honest with yourself. And Kurt and I have created iSōma, and this is the foundation of our work for 12 years. And we're offering 12 months of, you can call it apprenticeship, but it's the tip of apprenticeship. Apprenticeship is a lot longer than 13 moons long. It's, but it's the beginning of all of this work. And so this is kind of like the what frame, and the why you can feel in your being, but the how is for something that we've designed, that we've mapped out, is walking through the 4 directions with the fifth direction included, through the seasons, the cycles, and different aspects of study, of ritual, of somatic practice, of meditative practice, of nature immersion, projects, partner work, in person, community gatherings for a whole year, split up into 4 directions and 4 quarters. And so if this is something that's really feels strong in you that you want to look at deeper and you want to walk with us, then we would love to invite you to have a look at iSōma. It's our practitioner path for facilitation, for embodied facilitation. It's the culmination of all of our work. And there's an entire website dedicated and devoted to it. You can go and have a look at it. You're welcome to email us at hello@iSōma, ISOMA, meditation.com. It's application only because it's really important that we make a promise to each person that the community that's gathering has their arrow straight. You know, as you say, about it's like that arrow, that intention must be really true, because it completely changes the field, the way that we work. And we invite anyone from those who do really resonate with the work that we do and you kind of want to walk that way, but also doctors, allied health practitioners, nurses, teachers, business owners, carpenters, police officers, ambulance officers, parents, people that just want to deepen the way that they are in this world and mature in these arenas, because it really is a human relational thing. The catchment is for those really wanting to embody the elements and learn nature's language and the universal language, and be able to use this fine, detailed depth and nuance in facilitation, the work that they do. But if it's resonating and you're not in that field, you're still welcome. As long as your arrow shoots true, you're invited. And so that'll be starting in the spring. We start in spring together, 2025, and we move through the 4 directions and the 4 seasons together over a 12-month period. We gather 3 times in person. It's optional. You don't have to, because we have people around the world. And it needs to be something that you know that you will put the time and the energy in, because this isn't something you can intellectually scoop up as a certificate. Like you'll be changed by it.
You gotta live it. So let's live it.
Let's live it. Anything else to say, brother?
Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here with us. Yeah, I think everything's been said. You felt us both. You feel where we're coming from, why we're doing it, and what's on the table. So
yeah,
just look forward to seeing, the community that gathers around this in this beautiful body of work, and let us keep moving forward in a really good way.
Mm-hmm. And even if you don't feel called to step forward and move forward with this, just please use everything that you can from this to learn and to reflect. There's so much, like, use these inquiries, sit with them, like that you could chew on that for a long time. So, with all of our heart, thank you for receiving this, and trust your pull to whatever you're being pulled to. Trust it and be honest.